back to Meet the Authors. So glad you could bring us into your household. We have two amazing guests today. First off, I'm your host, Phil Levin. First off, we have our guest, Chris Denson. Chris, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here, Philip.
All right, it's great. And you have a suspense thriller book, and I'm very excited to have it on the show.
Exactly.
Show the audience your book.
So this is going to be my book right here, If This Is It, Mystery Murder Suspense Thriller.
This is it. Is the
Yes,
name
sir.
of the If This Is It.
If This Is It, yes, sir.
And what does the title mean? Where did you come up with that?
So for me, that was basically me going into a moment of trying to define what one of the main characters went into, If This Is It. That title's the note, which gets into more so of the book with the mother leaving a note for the child, stating that if this is it, and just going into the plot of more so leading into the book.
So the mother, I remember you mentioned this earlier, that the mother is about to be killed and the murderer makes her write a note. And
Exactly.
part of the note is supposed to be a clue to her son who killed it, and so it starts off, if this is it, as if this is the end of my life. Is that what this is about?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And for what it does for the readers, it more so captures for them not taking things for granted. You know, looking at your life personally and noting that even in the peak of a moment is bringing a child home and enjoying that brief moment that this could be it. So live life to the fullest. So I try to wake up personally every day and look at life, if this is it. So
if this is your last day, then this is the way you want to live your life.
I want to go out with a full out bang.
There you go. I like that concept.
Absolutely,
I like that concept.
absolutely.
And so tell us a little about your book. It's a murder mystery, and it's
Yes.
set where?
So this is set actually in Little Rock, Arkansas. I have a deep tie to Arkansas, Little Rock specifically. I spent a good portion of my childhood there, here and there with my father. So I wanted to kind of touch base with my personal roots in this book and try to find certain areas that I could deeply explore as a writer and get more vivid pictures in my mind to bring to the reader as well.
Okay, so set in Little Rock.
Right.
And in the opening, and you told us, I told us a little bit, the mother is killed.
Yes.
So it's a murder suspense story about trying to find out the murderer of the character's mother.
Absolutely. Well, for James, the main character, is actually about him trying to find the killer of his parents.
Both parents. Yeah.
Right. Now, there's going to be a bit of a plot twist towards the end where James finds out that everything that he may have possibly believed didn't turn out to necessarily be that. But for him going through the story, yes, he's trying to figure out who killed his parents. So, yes.
I like those kinds of ideas. Really a very sort of suspenseful idea and detective and something that's so important to a person to try to figure out who killed your parents. How old was he when his parents were killed?
So he was merely about 2 weeks old.
Wow.
They had just brought him home from the hospital. You know, like I said, during that good feeling of, bringing the baby home, you have all this stuff set up and everything's going good. And then one, unfortunate night, the wrong turns happen in all the wrong places, and James is left living with his grandparents while pretty much his day-to-day life is just doing whatever they need done for him, because at this point where the book picks up, he's 19, so he's out of high school, he's not necessarily in college yet, so he's just pretty much errand boy for his grandparents. So.
And old people like that, they need the help, yeah?
Absolutely. So he's trying to just pretty much find himself while also trying to balance out the needs of other people.
Yeah, pretty exciting book.
Absolutely.
And you were telling me earlier about how you publicize my book. And this is always important, I think. I say the easiest part is writing the book. Harder than that is publishing, and we'll go into that, but the hardest part of it all is the marketing. But let's do the publishing. So how do you get your books published?
So I go through Amazon. My first book is through Amazon. I actually started my first book on a type of just a start-off app. And pretty much I got it on there, and it was just a pick-off thing. And then Amazon actually, I guess they were trying to get the KDP site up and going for authors, and they actually reached out to me. And so they let me know the guidelines and everything, and I started on there, and I've picked up with them ever since.
All right, so this is your second book, both
Yes.
through KDP.
Yes.
And what's the first one, a suspense thriller too?
Yes, same guideline basically with that one, mystery suspense. That's where I kind of dwell. That's my area. The first book is called For My Brother, and if you search my name, Christopher Denson, it'll pop up, right, if not above this one, right beneath it. So yeah.
What fun! All right, so you got two books out, and then how do you market it? You don't have it in bookstores.
So for the most part, this one is available online through Amazon. So basically with indie authors, that's from what I studied through author webinars and the whole nine, that's pretty much the trend that's going on right now, is that you want to try to get online going. Online is pretty much the go-to. So I publish, I market through Amazon, and I market through, like I was telling you earlier, Bargain Booksy. Bargain Booksy is a huge, huge website.
This time, Bargain Booksy.
Right.
BARGAIN.
Right.
BOOK.
SY.
SY.
Right.
Bargain Booksy. And you were telling me it sounds like a great deal, like $50, and they give you a list, or they put your book up on the market? Or how does
Yeah,
it
so
work?
what happens is if you actually go onto that website, depending on what criteria, what genre your book falls in, they'll let you know right there, okay, hey, you have this many, we have this many readers that are ready to, they're already subscribed to our email list. So if you, invest in this campaign, they're gonna see your book tomorrow, and it'll go on for about a month, and it runs for about a month. So yeah, it's a very good investment.
So it's $50, and you sold enough to make your money back on that.
Absolutely. I'm a regular buyer with them. They're pretty familiar with me. They have a huge, huge clientele base, but I'm a pretty good regular there.
That's nice. It's good to have a fan base.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
That's how you make your money. All right. So what are you telling me then? You're doing some, besides your own writing, you do some ghost writing.
I actually started, so after this book, I kind of wanted to take a break for a minute from my personal.
This came out in January.
Yes, it came out in January earlier this year, January 6th. After this book, I wanted to take a little break from my personal writings and just try to dabble off into the world and see what other ways I could use my writing skills. And I got into the world of, ghost writing. So I've ghost written one book right now at the moment. Other than that, I do a couple of articles here and there for people. But the actual idea of ghostwriting for somebody is a unique process, because you're not necessarily going off of your thoughts. You're kind of trying to relay their thoughts into your skills. So it's a very unique process.
Yeah, I can imagine. I haven't done any ghostwriting, but I do publish articles and I do edit for other people. And you want to keep their voice, but still try to make it the language attractive.
Absolutely.
And tempting.
Absolutely.
You're a fairly young guy.
I try.
Yeah, you'll outgrow that. But what else are you doing besides? I know you can't support yourself as a writer. I presume you can't.
Yeah, it's very tough too. It's very tough too. So I mean, I'm a full-time student. I go to University of South Alabama, so I'm
and what are you studying?
English.
English.
Go figure, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, in the meantime, I have my normal day job just like everybody else that pays the bills, and I come home, and when the world is quiet, this is what I get into, is my writing. I've been doing it for a while, so.
Yeah, when did you start writing? How old were you?
So I actually started writing in middle school, and my teachers told me I had a knack for it. And the funniest thing in the world was that in high school, I had a last-minute project that I just did not pay attention to, and I was like, oh my goodness, it was a poem that I had to do.
We all have that,
All of us. And it was a last-minute poem where I had to paint a scenario for a funeral, kind of, mystery suspense, and I wrote some stuff, and I said, you know what, if I go up there and it's whatever, and I went up there and I read it, and I looked up, and everybody was just in awe. And my English teacher, because I was in honors English, he was like, Chris, that was really good. You have a serious future in this. And from that moment on, I started taking writing very serious. From that moment, it became a passion.
Now tell me a little bit about, you had mentioned a couple of times writing webinars.
Yes.
That's how you learn. What do you learn on those? How do you find those?
So it's kind of a unique situation. I believe I just started Googling at first. Everybody turns to Google for anything. And I came up under some successful authors that had started indie just like me, and they've made a living now out of it. A very successful author I follow, Joanna Penn, she's made a six-figure living off of writing. She's downsized her living. She goes through everything, any question you could have. So I catch her at webinars. I listen to her podcast on the way to work. So I keep up with her and what's going on. So yeah, anytime you can try to catch somebody that has they're not all the way ahead of you, but they've cleared a couple of roadblocks, it definitely helps.
We only have a minute left.
Yeah.
Do you want to read maybe 30 seconds? Do you have something you picked out you want to read?
Sure. Let's see. Let's go to...
Yeah, that's good. Just read the first paragraph there.
So I'm going to read from chapter 7 of I Would Have. And I Would Have was a very personal chapter for me because that title really, it took me to a personal place. So let's see. His eyes began to crack open slowly, but remained more so shut as he became more in touch with where he was. He reached about to the top of his head and felt a thick bandage applied as to stop where he had apparently cut himself on the teacup that took a fall with him in the kitchen. He heard whispers right outside his front door that he forced himself to sit up to hear more clearly what was being said. "I'm sure he'll be fine," said Grandma Leona. "You should run home and get some rest. I'll make sure that he calls you as soon as he wakes up."
Nice. So glad to have you here on the show.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Chris. So put up his website one more time where you can get, there you go, that's where you can reach.
Yes, sir.
And you can get his book online.
Absolutely.
We undid tyranny. We undid callousness and hopelessness. We undid evil and evil's evil twin. We've come a long way. We undid impossible and impossibly impossible.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
We undid indignity and carelessness. Just look at all we've undone. Certainly, we can undo overwhelming. It's time to undo climate change. Undo your part. There's a simple, bipartisan solution to climate change Congress needs to hear about. Go to undoyourpart.com.